Good evening all and welcome to yet another episode of DinamoTV. My name is Tonchi Prusats. As always, every Wednesday night, it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you tonight. It's episode 19 of our second season and the year is flying by, the season is flying by. And before you know it, well, it'll be time to start thinking about the end of season trip and the Australian-Croatian soccer tournament in Gold Coast. But until then, we've got lots and lots of football over the next few months to get through, and certainly lots and lots of action, news, interviews to get through tonight. Speaking of tonight, what have we got in store for you tonight? Well, if the senior men's team isn't doing too well at the moment, the senior women are. And we'll be speaking to one of the senior women's team members, ABBI PAVLINUSIC, who also scored 2 goals last week in the big 7-0 win over Williamstown. Big game coming up for the women's tomorrow against Altona East Phoenix at Paisley Park. If they can win that game, they'll be jumping into outright second spot on the ladder. So we'll talk to Abby about that and a lot of other things as well. At the moment, our junior technical director, Jason TRIFIRO, is over in Italy as part of the Futboltec Melbourne team that is currently taking part in 2 Italian junior tournaments over there. We'll hear from him what is happening over there. And we'll also speak to one of the parents of one of the boys, one of the Dinamo boys who is taking part in that Futboltec tournament. There are, in fact, 2 boys, young Tommy Mioch and Gabriel Roussou. And, of course, his dad, who's very well known around the club. And speaking of the senior women's team, he's the assistant coach there, SHAKA. Andrew Roussou, will be speaking to him a little bit later on as well. So we've got an action-packed show lined up for you tonight, folks. Heaps happening. And we look forward to your company over the next 60 minutes. And we're going to have a short message from our major sponsor, the I&D Group, and then after that, time for the news desk.
The I&D Group is regarded as one of the largest deliverers of concrete structure solutions in Victoria. Formed in 1994 by Ivan and Kathy Filipovic, their passion and commitment to getting the job done safely and economically has underpinned their success in the industry. I&D partners with large-scale building and construction companies in both the private and public sectors on projects large and small. With our corporate headquarters based in South Melbourne and storage yard based in the southeast suburbs, we have at our disposal thousands of square metres of quality materials, along with state-of-the-art lifting and crane equipment, enabling us to deliver the largest projects. We are committed to delivering high-quality projects by partnering with our clients and collaborating with project suppliers to ensure each job is delivered to exceed expectations. From humble beginnings, I&D now employs more than 1,200 dedicated professional and support staff, involved in a number of landmark projects right across Victoria. The I&D Group is a massive supporter of the Croatian community, backs soccer clubs in Victoria, and is proud to be the major sponsor of the St Albans Dinamo Football Club in 2024.
Welcome back to the news desk. And yes, as we said, lots happening in the news desk. Some good, some bad, but that's our club. We've got absolutely everything covered, that's for sure. Okay, let's turn our attention to the senior men first of all. And we've got the highlights of last Sunday's game against Altona Magic. And, well, maybe the result didn't go our way, but there's one bit of action that's certainly worth watching. Okay, your commentators, Alex Sivkorovsky and Katie Lambeski.
Just after their recent run of form, some recent good results coming their way. Dinamo needing this to take the opportunity to step back up and just rewrite themselves as we enter deep into the middle of the season. Altona looking to avoid that drop zone as well as Dinamo. Now this is where it all gets underway, and we're looking forward to calling this over the next 90 minutes or so with you. Through midfield there, otherwise Mukasha will be able to jump in there. That's been St Albans, that's been Dinamo's really calling card at the moment. They've just been overrunning the Magic through the middle of the park, and it's just not allowing them to have any real kind of consistency in their play at the moment. A little bit disjointed. This is much better. They're going through the middle of the ground. Bilal Habib here. And the ball lays it off to a teammate, takes it on to the bottom right-hand corner. Deary me, Anthony Frangi, that was the moment Altona were looking for. That's the moment they were waiting for. Almost had a second yellow, it looks like, for Habib. We'll confirm that in a moment. Early in the second half, really so far the decider here. Dinamo, what can they manufacture? Divan just trying to hold up the ball. But Bakran Dikoski, as well as Mukasha, brilliant there. The skipper again is holding up the ball beautifully. Amazing run, amazing run.
Good ball in, it's a Frangi. Frangi! Good save from Riley again. Unbelievable. That's two huge saves. Frangi must be looking to the sky and thinking, what else can I do to beat this guy? He's just got to get up now. Dragicevic gets it to the line. It'll be another throw. Quickly taken. Mills again. Ref has a look at his clock. He sends it forward into the box. It's too long, and I think that might be just enough. And that is it. The Magic take it out. What a victory for them. 1-0, down to 10 men.
Yep, not the result we wanted, and they are the results of the round 15 matches. The biggest, I guess, disappointment from our point of view, apart from our result against Altona Magic, the Melbourne Knights going down to South Melbourne in what they call the original derby, the original Melbourne derby, 0-2. So things aren't looking good for the Knights, but things aren't looking good for us at the moment. However, there's plenty of games left, and the boys are bound to bounce back. And that will all happen starting with this week. We're sure of it. It's going to be a tough game against Heidelberg, but you know what? When we're the underdogs and no one expects us to do well, that's when we're going to do well. Friday night, May 30th, this Friday night at Olympic Village, the game kicks off at 7:30 p.m. The under-23s and the under-19s, they'll be in action on Saturday at 12 p.m. and at 10 a.m. Now, speaking of the under-23s, we'll have a look at the ladder there. On the weekend, it was, in fact, we'll actually have a look at the weekend wrap-up before we do look at that ladder. So, obviously, the seniors losing 1-0 to Altona Magic. The 23s, they drew 2-2. Nicholas Murray scoring both of those goals for the under-23s. And at the moment, he is leading the competition with 16 goals for the season. So he's the leading goal scorer of the under-23s league. So well done, Nick Murray. The under-19s at the moment, Dinamo lost, unfortunately, to Altona Magic 2-4. Abdallah and Galvan scoring for the Dinamovci. Let's have a look at after round 15. The under-23s are in 7th position. The under-19s are currently in 5th position. The senior women, as we talked about, they recorded a fantastic 7-0 win against Williamstown, and they are now just 1 point behind Sydenham Park, but they do have a game in hand. And tomorrow night, in fact, at Paisley Park, Dinamo takes on Altona East, who are the second last place team in State League 2 Women's, and that game kicking off at 7:30 p.m. Crucial game for Dinamo, and we'll be speaking to one of the girls, ABBI PAVLINUSIC, a little bit later on in the program. Going back to that, do we have the weekly roundup, the week wrap? Okay, the weekend wrap. Let's go through the junior boys NPL, starting with the under-17s. They record a fantastic 5-0 win over Bendigo. In fact, it was a clean sweep. So the under-17s now they're in 8th position after that weekend win. The under-16s, they won 3-1, so they find themselves now in 13th position. The under-15s also recorded a win, a 2-0 win, and they moved to 15th, second last off the competition standings. And the under-14s, they find themselves in 11th position after also recording a 2-0 win. So if we look at the fixtures this week ahead, all the games will be away from home. The under-14s and the under-15s, they take on Brimbank Stallions, whereas the under-16s and the under-17s, they take on the Stallions' sister club, the Italian connection there, Brunswick Juventus. And those games, as I said, will all be played away from home. Now, what else have we got? Now, a fantastic innovation this year at Dinamo has been the Mini Tillies program, and that is going absolute great guns. And earlier today, the club released on our social media platforms a short clip about the Mini Tillies program. Here it is, folks. And after this, we're going to take a very, very short break. And then when we return, we will be speaking to our first guest, who will be I guess a graduate of the junior program here at Dinamo, ABBI PAVLINUSIC, who's a member of the senior women's team.
Westar Prestige is a proud family-owned second-generation business servicing Victorian motorists for more than 50 years. We are a specialist prestige collision repair facility situated in the western suburbs of Melbourne. However, we service all regions of Victoria, with many of our clients travelling not only from around Melbourne, but all of Victoria to use our services. We are also able to provide a digital platform for quoting clients' vehicles who are unable to personally attend our premises. We are an authorised manufacturer approved repair facility for Mercedes-Benz, Tesla, Peugeot and Suzuki, and are proud of our ongoing affiliation with these brands. We also work closely with several of Australia's largest insurance brands who entrust us to be a part of their preferred repairer network. Our client support staff are always happy to assist clients from the initial process of lodging claims through to the final stages of collection of the vehicle on completion of repairs and post-repair. So remember, for all your prestige collision repair needs, consider Westar Prestige, an award-winning, long-standing, Australian-owned business.
Welcome back to Dinamo TV, and it's time now for our first guest of tonight's show. And, well, the senior men's aren't doing too well. Guess what? The senior women's are doing very, very well. And last week, it was a 7-0 thumping of Williamstown, and we always like to record nice big scores like that. But one of the people that was responsible for that 7-0 thrashing of Williamstown was our next guest, who scored 2 goals, ABBI PAVLINUSIC. ABBI, welcome to Dinamo TV. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Very good. Now, congratulations on that win last week.
Thank you.
Like I said, when the blokes can't be doing too well, the girls are carrying the club, so to speak. But look, all jokes aside, 7-0 win, was it something that you expected? What were your impressions of the game?
Yeah, so we went into that game. We didn't know much. We've never played that team before, but, I think that, we all played really well as a team, and it doesn't matter who we play. I think that if we go in with a good mindset and we play how we train, I think that, we're able to do it, which was shown through our result last week, winning 7-0. So, yeah.
Was it one of those days everything just seemed to click, or did you have a little bit of luck, or 7-0 is a pretty good scoreline?
Yeah. No, I think we actually played really well. It was one of our better games, I think. We finished most things. There were also more that we could have scored more goals, I think, to be honest. But I'm really proud of the team. I think that it reflected the game as well, the end result. So yeah.
Yeah. Now we'll have a look at the ladder again there. There's the ladder. So that means Dinamo moves up to 3rd spot on the competition standings, but a game in hand over Sydenham Park, who this week has a bye. But then this week you've got an important game coming up against Altona East Phoenix. In fact, tomorrow is that game. Let's talk about that before we talk about you specifically. We're expecting what are you expecting from the game against Altona East?
Yeah, so again, we don't know much about the other team, but I do know that, I expect all the girls to go in how we went in last week, be positive, optimistic, and just put in 100. And I think that if we do that, again, I think we can then also get that game ahead of Sydenham and also potentially move up on the table too. So, yeah.
Yeah. So win will definitely get you above Sydenham. Yeah. In the Hill Eagles, they seem to be the only team at the moment that have been really giving you grief, and the rest of the league. They're undefeated, obviously. Are they just so? What makes them so different? Are they just so light years ahead of everyone else in which department?
When we played them, they were a very good side. They were very good. They're good communicators on the pitch. They're passing. They're covering for each other. They're just a good side, to be honest. Overall, they're pretty good.
Is it one team or 2 teams get promoted from the
it's just one team.
Just one. That sucks. That's a bummer. It's like that. Last year was the same thing. There's one team that's really outstanding, and the rest of the teams really struggle. But I know in previous years there's always been talk of Div 1 teams pulling out because they can't be reserves teams and things like that. And that's ultimately the aim, isn't it? To eventually get into Div 1 and have a seniors and a reserves team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has there, as the season has progressed, has there been kind of interest from, friends that that play at other clubs or girls that come up against you guys that are sort of saying, we'd like to come over to Dinamo? And we've had a little bit of stability with Tom coaching, Shaka assistant, and some of the other guys. Has that gone noticed by some of the other, opposition players or players at other clubs?
Yeah, I think we always receive comments and compliments based on our team, and we have a really strong coaching staff as well, which I think makes a big difference with how we play. we always get, players that say like, oh, the Dinamo girls, they, we have like, it's a lot more than just a team as well. We're all friends and things like that, which plays a big part in it. And I think it's noticed a lot by other people as well, because we got like that chemistry as a team as well, something that I think teams struggle with in our league when you put just a bunch of random girls together, which it's actually really, really special what we have with that. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Great to hear. And look, the results speak for themselves, that's for sure. Yeah, we'll talk about that game tomorrow night. Game has been brought forward. It was originally going to be Friday night, but it's been brought forward to Thursday, May 29, Paisley Park. Kickoff under lights at 7:30 p.m. and a big game against Altona East Phoenix. And even though they are second last on the ladder, that sometimes can mean nothing, because a lot can change, that's for sure. Now, Abby, let's talk about yourself. When did you start playing soccer? Football?
Yeah, so I've played soccer since I was in under 7, so it's been a while. I don't remember not playing soccer, to be honest. So yeah.
Yeah. And at Dinamo, did you play anywhere else?
Yeah, just at Dinamo mostly my whole life. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was it like when you first started? Was it mixed with the boys? Did you have a girls only team at the time? Or?
No, at the time it was I have a twin sister. We both played with the boys.
Yeah.
And I think it took like 2-3 years until, or maybe even more, till there was a girls team. It's very different to how it is at Dinamo now, with heaps of little girls everywhere. It wasn't really like that then. But yeah, it's good to see how far it's come from then.
Yeah, and then you moved your way up through the juniors. And when did you kind of think to yourself, no, I want to take this quite seriously? I don't want to just 1 year do soccer, next year do basketball, third year do whatever.
Yeah.
When did you kind of decide, no, this is something I really want to stick to?
I think even from young, it's something that I've just really enjoyed. And then on top of that, like especially you start playing with all the girls and you make lovely friendships and things like that. It motivates you to keep coming back. I'd say since young, I've always just wanted to keep playing, especially with the girls. Yeah.
Yeah. And your twin sister, as you said, she's also in the senior team. And has that helped, having that kind of growing up through the, teenage years in particular, sort of having someone at home pushing you to kind of like, oh, you want to do better than them, and you kind of always have that competitiveness about it?
Yeah, it's motivating. You always have someone that you're up against, and it's good. It's like you always have someone, that you go to training with, you go to games with, that you compete against as well at the same time. So it's good. It's very motivating.
Yeah, and regarding the rest of your teammates there, who's the one that you kind of who you most get on well with? Don't tell me your twin sister. What's her name? What's your twin sister? Kayla, yeah. Do you get on well with her, do you?
Yeah, no, we get
on the field. I'm talking about. You get on like twins off the field,
yeah.
Who else do you sort of seem to really click in that team?
There's the team. It's combined of like age groups as well. So there's like younger girls. There's that median age, the older age. So I'm kind of in the middle.
Yep.
There's girls that are older than me. A few that I'm kind of a little bit younger.
Yeah.
But I'd say mostly people around my age. I think everyone gets along in the team. It's very united.
Yep.
So I don't think there's one specific person, but as a whole, I'd say mostly the girls my age. We played together. Juniors, they're moving up. So that's probably the only reason why I'd be closer to them. But
no, that's awesome. Fantastic. Now, you mentioned about how these days things are a lot more different than when you were growing up. And we've actually got a clip, I think, of here we go, of the Mini Tillies program that's coming up at the there we go. And how good is that? Just to see, a lot of those younger girls now getting an opportunity to play in girls-only programs, and we've got from juniors all the way now up to seniors, girls-only teams, and that just brought a whole new dimension to the club, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's really good to see. It's something that I know myself and all the other girls, we have never had like a whole program dedicated to girls. So yeah, it's really nice to see, and how they can grow up in that environment where they're supported like that. It's really nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we're speaking with ABBI PAVLINUSIC, who scored 2 goals against Williamstown last week from the senior women's team. ABBI, we're wishing you all the best, and hopefully you can score another 2, maybe even more, tomorrow night against Altona East, and help the team get jump into second spot on the ladder.
Thank you.
Well, really appreciate it. Thank you. And that was ABBI PAVLINUSIC from the senior women's team joining us on DinamoTV. Very polite young lady, as are all the girls in the senior women's team. Folks, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to go to Italy. That's right, we'll be talking to Jason TRIFIRO, who is our junior football technical director, and he's also the coach of the Futboltec Melbourne team that is currently taking part in a series of junior tournaments in Italy. Stay tuned for that. Don't go away. Welcome back to DinamoTV, and before we get to our next guest, just a little bit of a promo push for one of our sponsors, Lakeside Motoring Group. If you're in need of some new wheels, new car, head on down to Lakeside Motoring Group this weekend for their end of financial year mega sale. See Perry, he'll look after you, and the Lakeside Motoring Group is located at 1131 to 1139 Ballarat Road on Caroline Springs, or should I say, in Caroline Springs. It's an absolute pleasure now to cross over to Italy, live to Italy, for our next guest for tonight. He is our Junior Technical Director at Churchill Reserve. He's also coach of the Futboltec Melbourne Under-12 teams, currently competing in 2 tournaments over in Italy. It's a huge pleasure to welcome Jason TRIFIRO to DinamoTV. Jason, come stai? How are you?
Yeah, bene. Thank you. Yeah, very good. Traveling around Italy at the moment, so
yeah,
a lot of football, but yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, now while we're recording this, it's very, very early down over in Italy where you're at. So we appreciate that. Where are you, by the way? Where are you now?
We're in Naples at the moment, so yeah, been here for a few days now, just preparing for the next tournament.
Napoli. Nice. Yeah, speaking of the tournament, so Trofeo di Nuzzo was the one that was completed by the Futboltec Under-12s, and coming up is the Trofeo d'Alterio. Tell us a little bit about the trip so far from a footballing point of view.
Yeah, look, I guess for these Melbourne Futboltec team, it's first time traveling. I worked with them probably for around 10 weeks. Which was not a lot of sessions, because obviously they still got their club commitments too, but enough preparation to sort of put a team together, put a strong enough team together. And yeah, we've done Tuscany, and then we've now in Naples. So first tournament was in Tuscany. I'm sure a good experience for the boys, to see where they're at amongst some of the world's best for their age. And now we're in Naples preparing for another tournament this coming weekend.
Yeah, there's some footage there on the screen now of some of the action that's been happening, and it's sometimes hard to believe that these kids are under 12. Like the level intensity, the skill level is just absolutely amazing. But how have the boys sort of adapted to the rigors, if you like, of European junior football? Is it much different to what they're accustomed to here in Australia?
Yeah, it's a lot different.
Let's admit it. That was a silly question, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, you look. You know, we're working with some of the better players. I guess for their age group back home in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So then to come here, sometimes it can be a little bit a bit of a shock to the system until they sort of find their feet and get used to the intensity and just how much football means to people here. I think too. is a bit of a shock. It is number one. It is their lives. So, and a lot of the players in these top academies see it as a real future. You know, so where sometimes we don't. I think back home, it's second sometimes for us. You know what I mean?
More like a recreation, isn't it? Like just an activity that the kids do to get out off their devices. But over there, it's a real. What's the best way to describe it? Religion, isn't it? Way of life.
Yeah, definitely. I just think it's it means everything to them. You know what I mean? They live and breathe football. It's not like you said, it's not just something they do just on the weekend to catch up with their mates type thing, you know. And we're working with some of the more serious footballers, definitely, that actually are at sort of an elite level. But yeah, over here it's football. It's nothing in a way, you know. So
now I guess the boys over there, including two of our boys, Tommy Mioch and Gabriel Roussou, they've had an opportunity to live, breathe, eat, you know, just devour football from morning to night. And some of the things that you guys have managed to do is train multiple times and, you know, have team meetings and all that. But even little things like taking team walks, you know, we've got some footage here of the boys going for team walks. Has it been too much for them? Are they sort of starting to get sick of it? Are they absolutely loving it?
no, I think they're definitely loving the sort of full-time football environment.
Yeah.
Because like I said, they are some of the more serious footballers back home. You know what I mean? So, and if we sort of try and give that when we travel with all our teams. That it is a full-time environment. It is what if they were to get to a top professional level, this is what they do. You know what I mean? So, what they eat, what they drink, how they sleep, team walks are scheduled, team meetings are scheduled, sessions, backing it up like game after game of high intensity. That can be quite difficult if you've never done it before. You know what I mean? So you got to try and expose these players to that. And then in the future, if they do happen to sort of move on and push to a more higher and professional level, and they've sort of been through it a little bit, you know, that's another part of traveling, you know, that learning experience of what it takes to sort of be a professional day in, day out.
Well, you've taken a selection of players from Melbourne in the Futboltec Melbourne team to Italy, and as you said, they're kind of the elite players. That, you know, they're certainly in that frame of mind, that attitude, and also, I guess, what they've achieved. How much of a difference is there between, say, those kids, the Futboltec Melbourne kids, and some of the academy teams that you're coming up against? Is there a vast difference, or not as much as people would think?
Definitely some teams it's a bit of an eye opener, I think, for everyone that's travelled, because the level they play at is beyond their years. Some of these players, definitely physical players too. There are a lot of big boys around in and around the teams now. So we're quite a tiny little team, which is fine. But then you got to think, you know, you got to think 7 steps ahead almost on the pitch sometimes, because if you get caught on it can be a little bit physically not a bit of a mismatch, you know. So there's definitely some teams that are superior than others, definitely, but then there's teams where I go, you know what, like we're not far off that level, you know. So I wouldn't say it's like worlds and worlds apart, but there is definitely a noticeable difference in some of the players, how they perform, and the maturity of the players, you know. We're sometimes maybe a little bit immature still on the pitch, whereas these guys are making decisions that you'd see pros make, you know. So a lot of that's what to do with the culture and how much football they watch, traveling to stadiums, being used to bigger crowds, being used to big occasions, stuff like that. Sometimes I think we looked a little bit shocked in that sense, you know, even though we're good footballers, and if your mind's not there and you're not used to things, you can sort of be a little bit off, you know.
What have you kind of observed? What have you sort of taken in during your trip so far that you think you'd be able to incorporate in your coaching back in Australia?
No, definitely. Look, I've travelled quite a few years, you know what I mean. So things that I've sort of brought, things I've sort of brought back, I've put into my coaching now. But I think just from a mental side of things, like just we're constantly driving kids back home, whereas these kids drive themselves. And I try to explain that to the kids a lot, you know, that how much it means, and for them to sort of 12 years old, they're at an age now where they've got to start to do those sort of things themselves. They're not sort of young babies anymore in a way, so they've got to try and drive themselves to be the best they can every session. Whereas here it's sort of normal. Every game, every session, for all these players, it just looks like they want to be the best, So I try and instill that in terms of their mindset constantly. That's why I'm constantly driving sessions, because I know what it's like. But from a football point of view, I think, look, what I've seen around the world for a few years now, I've sort of tried to bring back and incorporate. But yeah, there's obviously always little bits and pieces that you can add, new things that you see. Speaking to a lot of people, networking over here, speaking to a lot of big clubs and how they do things. So yeah, there's always a few bits and pieces that you can add to your current coaching,
What about the technical ability? We sometimes hear that, up to 12, 13 years of age, Australian kids are technically just as good as other kids. They just probably lack that as you said, sort of that street smartness on the field, on the pitch at any given time. Is that something that our kids are lacking or lagging behind, or are we actually kind of not that far behind in a technical element?
I think look, certain players are definitely technically up there, but it's the level they do it at and their decisions when to sort of do things and when not to do things. It's very, very mature. Yeah, like I said, like you're watching some senior players play sometimes. So I think our technical ability is okay when we play sort of at a slower tempo almost, and when you're here and you got a high intensity game, you're constantly under pressure. There's some games where you don't even dominate. You got to sort of have another part of the game where you might defend more than usual back home. So you put all that together, then your technique sort of goes out the window a little bit. So I think the technical ability is good, but to do it at a higher level consistently all the time is where we're a little bit off at the moment. And part of that is not having that sort of competition week in, week out where these guys do. These guys travel to tournaments all around Europe all the time, Used to crowd. You've seen back then when you put the photo there, there's parents holding flares up, you know what I mean? Nothing silly, but it just creates an atmosphere where we're not used to, and then the kids are sort of here, they're adapted to that and they strive under that sort of stuff, you know what I mean? And their technique is good at a high level, high intensity. It doesn't matter. They're not sort of making those sort of errors where we might make it. Even though we are technically quite good, I think, So yeah, there's a lot of learning this trip, Part of the reason we travel is to learn and not to get disheartened by it, but go, you know what, this is the top level, this is where we want to be. Let's go back and try and continue to work on it,
Well, there's an old saying, nothing that broadens the horizons like travelling does, and that certainly applies to football tours, football trips such as the one you've organised. Jason, thanks so much for joining us on DinamoTV. We look forward to catching you when you get back, and have a safe trip on your way home.
Nice, thanks for having us. See you guys soon.
Good on you. Well, how much of an eye-opener is that? That's absolutely fantastic insight into what is happening football-wise, certainly as far as our juniors in Europe. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we're going to get a parent's perspective, and we're going to be crossing over to Italy as well to talk with Gabriel Roussou, better known as Shaka. His little boy's over there as well, so we'll be getting an insight as to what a parent is experiencing over there. Don't go away. It's the Dinamo TV show podcast that you are watching. And welcome back to Dinamo TV. Well, our next guest, last but not least, he's very, very well known around the club. He's involved in the junior space. He's also the assistant senior women's team coach. But at the moment, he's in Italy in the role of a soccer dad. And his son Gabriel is part of the Futboltec under-12 team that we just recently spoke to Jason TRIFIRO earlier today. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome to DinamoTV, man commonly referred to as Shaka, Andrew Roussou. Andrew, how are you?
Yeah, good, Mikey. How are you?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. Thank you for joining us here on DinamoTV. Absolute pleasure having you on the show. Now, we'll talk about your role as a senior women's team assistant coach and junior coach a bit later on. But in this particular role, you're over in Italy at the moment as a soccer dad. Gabriel's doing well. Tommy, obviously Mioch as well from Dinamo. How are the boys doing?
Yeah, look, they're improving with every day. It's a different environment for them compared to the first couple of days where there was a bit of a shock to the system when they first played a game. Until now, you can see that they're starting to get into a little bit of rhythm. So they're doing well. One thing I'm confident about is they're going to come back to Melbourne and in a matter of the 2 weeks that we'll be here, would have improved heaps.
Yeah. And look, well, before Jason even came to the club, I was speaking to him last year, and he mentioned how look, in his opinion, the tournaments that we have in Australia, they're great and this and that, but when you take it abroad, when you take it to Europe, it's just another level. What's been the thing that's really stood out for you overall, like from the whole experience, not necessarily just the on-field performance, but everything as a soccer father?
I don't think it's one particular thing, but I think it's football here in Italy or Europe or outside of Australia in general. I think it's like a religion. It's a life. I think we see it as an activity. Okay, great, we've got a tournament. You come here and they celebrate the kids. They celebrate the coaches, the tournament. The tournament we played in Tuscany, there was a 2-hour opening ceremony celebrating all. Yeah.
Wow.
The kids all walked out with banners and they were introduced to the crowd, and the crowd was cheering. Then there was a closing ceremony with all the kids. It's completely different to Australia in relation to the passion. And I think overall the landscape that they have here makes it more conducive for them to develop into footballers.
Yeah. And is that just because of the culture, the mentality, or is it just something else? Is it the facilities or the fact that there's a professional club on every street corner, so to speak?
I wouldn't say facilities. Look, the facilities that we've played at, I've realised that they're all synthetic pitches, which is fantastic. But you do go there, and there's only one synthetic pitch or two synthetic pitches. But the biggest thing I think is the hunger and determination by the kids. I don't know if it's their way of getting out of their current state of life or what it is, but they go to play. We go maybe as an activity. That's a thing that the parents can do on a Sunday, and let's introduce our kids so he doesn't stay at home. Let's introduce him to soccer so he can get fit. Just another activity other than school. Whereas I think they see it as obviously there's different levels. You're not going to have it, but and I'm not going to make comparison only with, say, Inter Milan, because we've watched Inter Milan, Juve, we've watched all these top academies play. But then there's the second and third academies that all feed through to each other, and these feeder clubs, the kids there are unbelievable.
Shaka, how are our kids handling it? Most especially your son Gabriel and young Tommy. While we're speaking, we've got some footage here of a penalty shootout.
Yeah, how they're handling it. In a nutshell, their first game, which is on the second day, was against Port Cardi Academy.
Yep.
And the first 10 minutes basically summed up everything, which was a shock to the system. The other teams, they've got, say, 25 players in the squad, 30 players or 20, larger numbers. And as soon as the whistle blows, they're basically chasing you down with every bit of energy that they have.
Yep.
So from that first game, the first 10 minutes, we found that the kids basically had the biggest shock. I don't think they've ever had it in all their lives playing in Australia.
Yep.
And that first 10 minutes taught them, if it was just that 10 minutes and we flew back to Melbourne, you'd probably say they got something out of it.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah. So as a parent and as a coach that's coached, I basically said, if we play this team, even though they're not one of the better academies, but if we played them another 3 or 4 times, by the 4th or 5th time, we would be beating him because we would have got used to the intensity.
So is it kind of like a high press, like right from kickoff, they go just absolutely nuts, like a unit, and something that we're just not used to, that pressure right from the outset?
Yeah, I find that that's part of it, the high press. I guess when the top academies play against each other, and they play like more of a senior football. They either press or they can basically soak the pressure. But even with that high press, I'll give you an example. We have a player in the team who I rate as the best 2013 born in Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
In Victoria, he plays at his own. If he plays at his own age group, he'll beat 3 or 4 players with ease.
Yep.
In Italy, he beats one player or tries to beat one player, and he may not be the greatest player, but then that player's still basically biting at his toes, at his heels.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he's managed to stop that attack, and he has to try to beat him again.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of the comments from the kids, there's a boy there that trains one day, he's a very good player, trains one day a week with Melbourne Victory, JNPL, under 14s.
Yep.
And this is an under 12 tournament. He says it's harder playing against these under 12s than the under 14s.
Wow.
And that's Melbourne Victory. So that's the sort of level. Now, not all the teams, we played Fiorentina, who were one of the favourites. And they taught us a lesson. It was only 3-0. We only lost 3-0, but just watching them play and the intensity, even in their warm-up, I've never seen it before in my life. The coach basically demands intensity and he demands precision.
Is it possible to bring back that intensity back to some of our teams? For example, you coach some of the juniors, you coach help coach the assistant senior women's. Is it possible to bring it, or just our kids here in Australia just don't understand that level of intensity?
No, look, we've tried it before. I've tried it with Stepan. Jason brings it, and the more time you spend here, and then you understand Jason a little bit more, because Jason's actually he's a good coach, but he's also very tough. But no different or no more than any other coach here in Italy.
Yep.
Last night we played Napoli as an example, and the coach did not stop shouting, jumping up, pulling his hair out the whole game. Now, I'm not saying that's the right way to coach, but there are moments for that sort of stuff. Now, can we bring the intensity to Australia? Of course. But me personally, if we do bring it, can it last? Does that make sense?
Is it sustainable?
Bring it in moments.
Yeah.
Can we bring it for 100% of a game or 100% of a training session? Now, just to give you an understanding of that is, you have a look at the opening ceremony and you've got a squad walking out with 30 players. Okay, well, let's say 24 players. So effectively, they've got 2 teams. These 2 teams are all fighting for the top 12 positions to be in the starting lineup. Well, if they might have more in a tournament. Now, the intensity from all those 12 players at training is different to a team that only has 12 players.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you watch these feeder clubs, the same. They've also got 24, 30 players in the academy squad. And when you do go and watch some of them train, you've got, for instance, like the Fiorentina were training. And one of the feeder clubs, all their kids were lined up sitting down watching them train, because those kids have a dream to get into that team.
Wow. Yep.
You know, so, and we're not playing, and there's some players, you know, Fiorentina had a number 8 who we were told that Real Madrid is after. You know, in the tournament, Napoli had Cavani's son.
Yep.
Inzaghi's son was there. So there's a lot of, you know, these players are next level. Can our players get better? Yeah. Can we ever recreate what's in Italy? I don't think so. I don't think the landscape is the same.
Yeah.
I think someone was asking me, what would you do if your kid was really good? I go, if my kid was really good, you need to come to these overseas at an early age.
Yeah.
So the 1%ers will help you.
Yeah, awesome, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you, Shaka. We look forward to catching up with you when you get back to Australia. And those poor senior women's, I think they are going to be in for a bit of a shock. No, we're all joking, but there is apparently there is a movement over here for you to stay in Italy for as long as possible, because while you've been away, the girls have been winning 7-0 against Williamstown last week, and who knows how much they'll win by against Altona East tomorrow.
Well, hopefully they can win 10-0 tomorrow, and I can stay a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's true. Good on you, Shaka. Absolute pleasure chatting to you.
Thanks, Tonchi.
All the best. It's Andrew Roussou, Shaka, having the time of his life, it appears, over in Italy. Folks, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, when we return, it'll be time to wrap up tonight's episode of Dinamo TV. Don't go away. And that, folks, brings us to the end of yet another episode of Dinamo TV. Thank you for being a part of tonight's show. We look forward to having your company again next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Until then, do make sure to get yourself out to one of the Dinamo games this weekend, whether it's tomorrow night at Paisley Park with the senior women's, or on Friday with the senior men's at the Olympic Village, or any one of our junior teams, without a doubt. Until next week, good night.